Welcome, everyone. I'll try to keep it brief and to the point today. So the goal is to give you a quick review of what will happen in the next couple of months, basically how the project will run, and then also what you need to do in the immediate next few days in case you didn't read the instructions and still have questions. And more importantly, if you do have questions, please do ask them now, or as I will be providing the review, and I will try to answer your questions. And you can put your questions in the Q&A window or just simply raise your hand. I'll add you here to the panel and we'll talk. I'll see you, I'll hear you. So that would be perfectly fine. Oh, and Raphael is here, very nice. So let me add my trusted Lieutenant Raphael Tamashiro, who is managing the teenager track and professional tracks of Xculture. So very nice. Thank you, Raphael, for coming and joining us here. So briefly, where we stand at this time, so you have a bigger picture, and then what happens specifically for you, what you specifically need to do in the next few days. So as you may know, Xculture runs in 2 tracks. So we have about 150 universities this semester. And so all of them are in different countries, again, about 70 countries by the location of the students. And so obviously, the academic calendars are different in those different countries. So for some, the semester starts early. For others, it starts just now. We have a couple of groups from Australia and New Zealand, and their semester will start next week. So whereas, for example, in the United States, normally the semester starts in January. And so as a result, we have to adjust the schedule and offer the project in 2 tracks to accommodate those differences. So we have about 2,000 people, a little under 2,000 people in the early track. And so they started in January, and they will be actually finishing up the project in, I think, 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So they're almost done, 2/3 of the way done. So they are a little bit different. So for you guys, you don't need to worry about them, although in a way you are still in a competition with them. So it is a contest where we'll still have the best teams, the best instructors, and we select the winners based on the whole semester, but they have a somewhat different schedule. Now, the late track, the second track, is a little bit bigger. So we expect about 4,000 people. At this time, we have about 4,000 people in the system, but we'll have a few more joining in the coming days. So we still get some, well, applications have been processed, but we're still getting the students' names and adding them to the system. And so they would be added to the system in the coming literally hours, days. I think we have 1 or 2 classes that will be joining in a couple of weeks. So the semester there starts in mid-March, but we already have those names. And so we will be sort of tentatively placing them on teams. You will know, or some of you will know, that you will have someone joining from a different country or a state a little bit later, but you will know that there will be someone else on your team. And once their semester starts, they will join you as well. Now, here is what you should have done by now as of today. So all of you, I assume, since you have the invitation to this webinar, it also means that you received the welcome letter to the project as a whole. And so in that welcome letter, so if you haven't seen it yet, it would have been from admin@xculture.org with the subject line, "Welcome to Xculture." And so that email contains 2 important links. One is the link to the Xculture resource page, and the other one is the link to your readiness test. And so it's important to remember that your test link is unique. So do not share that with your friends, because the link sort of knows who you are. Once you click on it, it will take you directly to your test. And so just briefly, let me share the screen and show you what that resource page looks like.
Vas, can you make me a co-host so I can help you with the chat and Q&A as well?
Yes, let me do that right away. Yes, thank you, Raphael. So here you should see the resource page, and here you have some training material that you need to cover before you can take the readiness test. So you have a short video that just simply explains the purpose behind the project. You have a little bit more short video for students, but the most important document is this 20-page or so training module. It's a PDF file, you can download it, very brief, and it covers sort of 3 important things. 1, how the project works. 2, the sort of the human side of the project. what can go wrong at the level of the team members. And then 3, the technical side of collaboration, by the way, developed by Raphael, that provides a review of all of the technical communication tools that you can use to coordinate and communicate with your team members. Again, by now with COVID, a horrible sort of pandemic, but one good thing that came out of it that everyone now knows how to use Zoom, for example. And so we have to provide less training now because people are more familiar with these online collaboration tools. But there is more than just Zoom and email. And so we provide a link, an overview of some other tools that you might be interested in sort of learning. Now, importantly, you as a team, you can communicate whichever way you want. So some teams stick with email only, and that's fine. Other teams use more advanced tools such as Zoom or Dropbox and Google Docs. And some teams go all the way and use, for example, Slack. So it's a more sort of comprehensive project management platform, which is fine too. You can do that as well. So whichever way you want to do it. And so here on this page, you will review the materials. And then in the email that you received, you also have the second link, and that one takes you to the readiness test. And so the test is relatively long and sort of purposefully so. There are several reasons for the test. So one, first and foremost, we want to make sure that you are available. In the first year or 2 of Xculture, what we did was the professors would give us the names, and we would place the students on teams. And often what would happen is that some students maybe dropped the course and the email is not even being answered. For others, email didn't even work. Some perhaps were not competent enough as far as the language skills go. There were all kinds of problems. And so obviously placing those students on teams wasn't a very good decision because the team then suffers. And so now we try to have some sort of selection in place to make sure that only those who are truly ready are placed on teams. And so the test will, one, make sure that you actually did receive the email. So that tells us that your email address is working. Second, if you click on the link and try to take the test, it tells us that you sort of know what the project is, and at the very least, you have some motivation to go online and try to take the test. Then obviously, very importantly, you answer those questions correctly. And those of you who have done the test, you know that it sort of tests your knowledge about the project. It kind of mirrors and follows the same sections in the training module. And you can literally, since the test is untimed, you can literally have the training module open on one screen, the test on the other. And then if you don't know the answer, you can look for the answer in the training module. And so here it's both a test, but also a review. So in a way, as you answer those questions, and that's why there are so many of them, you kind of review all the important details about the project. So if we simply gave you the training module and sort of didn't include the test, many people would kind of flip the pages quickly without carefully reading the important things. And as a result, obviously, many people wouldn't be quite prepared. Now, another important thing about the test is sort of a test of your motivation and dedication. And I'll be talking here in full disclosure, full transparency. I hope it will come out right. So Xculture is a team-based project. And I care more about your ability and readiness to work in a team than about your IQ or creativity or how great you are otherwise. If this was an online course or maybe an online book that you buy from me, for example, I wouldn't care if you read that book, or I wouldn't care if you attend the lectures, because you're on your own. Xculture is a team-based project. And so if you enroll in the project and you do not participate, obviously that's a problem for the whole team. And in that case, I have not just you not participating, but I have other 4, 5, 6 people on your team who are not happy, who are confused where you are you sick, something's going on, why you're not participating. And so in a way, and again, in full disclosure, we designed the test deliberately a little bit longer than maybe it should be to make sure that you sort of have the dedication, motivation, and stamina and discipline to complete it. So we noticed, again, in full disclosure, that it is not the percent of the correct answers that you answer, or that the percent of the answers that you give that are correct that predicts your future performance, but whether or not you actually complete the test. So we noticed that people who cannot sort of power through the test, which takes, I don't know what, 20, 30, 40 minutes, maybe at most, depending on your language proficiency. So it is those who do not finish the test are the ones who often then sort of drop out in the middle of the project, or maybe do not actively engage with their team and things like that. And we don't want that. So if you are not fully committed, that's a problem for the whole team, and we don't want that. So in a way, to me, the signal is if you completed the test, well, at the very least, you can find the necessary 30 minutes, you can find the sort of motivation to complete it. And so that's sort of another test. We do also have a test of English language in the test, sort of formal, kind of like mini test of English as a foreign language, or test of English in general, because for many of you, that's obviously native language. But we also have the whole test in English. And so again, if you answer the questions correctly, at the very least, it tells me that maybe you are fluent enough to read the materials, understand them, comprehend them, and then provide correct answers. Is the test perfect? Probably not. So we have about 95% of the people, and Raphael, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like about 95% of the people pass it on the first try. If you fail the test, you will get another link and you can try again. And so another maybe 2-3% pass on the second try. And then we have about maybe 2, maybe 3%, probably 2, who either fail the test, even after multiple attempts, or never even try. And so obviously those who do not pass the test, we don't put them on teams. So those people, I'm not sure if they, lazy or not interested or busy otherwise, or going through some personal problems at work, in school, who knows? But if they didn't find the time to do the test, it tells me that they probably will not find the time to work with you on the team. So obviously those people we don't place on teams. Some people have been calling to make the test even stricter, maybe make it even longer or make the questions more difficult. But it seems like historically it does a good job. So when we started the project, we saw the non-participation rate of about 25% plus or minus, similar to what we see in reports from other either corporate studies or similar projects. And so once we started doing the test and peer evaluations, at this time we would have out of, let's say, 4,000 people, there will be probably about 20, 30 people in a given week who need to receive a warning. So whose peer evaluations are indicative of their low performance. And maybe at some point we need to exclude like 4 or 5 people per week, maybe up to 10 in some weeks, to a total of about, I don't know, 25 or so, maybe 30 for the whole semester. So it's less than 1% for sort of bona fide non-participants. Again, I wish I had fewer of those people, but at the same time, it's a team-based project. We are all humans. Some people legitimately can get sick. Some people legitimately can be, I don't know, busy at work, broke up with boyfriend, girlfriend, and so on. But with the warnings and all the system, yeah, we do have, basically you should expect to have probably someone on your team who may not necessarily be a sort of bona fide free rider, but there will be probably at least one person on your team who will not be as active, as dedicated, as engaged as you are. And so you probably will have at least someone who may be sort of not to your liking, maybe not working as hard, or maybe vice versa, maybe being too bossy and trying to do everything. And when that happens, and notice that I said the word when, not if, it probably will happen for all of you. So when that happens, I hope you will not see that as a problem, but as a learning opportunity. So as I said, all of us are humans. And when you deal with humans, we are all not perfect. And so something will go wrong. Maybe there will be someone who will, as I said, will be either too shy or too bossy or too lazy or too direct, or maybe too indirect, or maybe we'll miss the meeting. Who knows? The point of Xculture is to give you a preview of these challenges so that when you have to do it again as part of your job or maybe as part of your education, you sort of know better what to expect. And then this time when you experience this, you will probably try different ways to deal with the problem. And hopefully you will develop an intuition or knowledge of what works, what doesn't. So when you see the same problem in the future, you kind of will know better what to do about it. Now, if the instructors are listening to me, again, I want to say that sometimes students and instructors mistakenly sort of take Xculture not as a learning exercise, but as a test, as an exam. And so students are overly sort of preoccupied and concerned about the final report, which is very important. I don't want to diminish its importance, But many times when students experience some challenges, maybe you have someone from New Zealand and you are from the United States, and the time zones are such that it's very difficult to schedule a meeting that works for everyone due to the time zone differences. Or, sorry, or maybe, as I said, someone is, has a full-time job and never has the time, to dedicate enough energy to the project. So when those things happen, you shouldn't panic, because, as I said, it's not about that final report that you need to write, but rather the journey of getting to that report. And so some professors then start panicking when they hear complaints from the students. Like, for example, sometimes a student would come to me and say, the team is doing fine, everything's going well, but we have this one guy from, I don't know, from India, for example, or from Ukraine, who is not participating actively. And the professor starts panicking because, oh, my students are not happy, I need to do something about it. And then they say, well, let me talk to Vas and maybe we will move you to a better team, or maybe we will find a way to punish that bad student. And usually we say, no, yeah, we will obviously investigate, see what's going on, try to help, assign a coach if needed to the situation. Obviously, if the situation is bad, we will send a warning to the student. If the situation does not improve, we will exclude the student from the team. But at the same time, I don't get upset about it, because it's normal. It's not X-Culture. In fact, in X-Culture, the rate of those problems is lower than in most other teams that we read about. So in a way, I kind of feel bad for the students that they have, maybe less than perfect team member. But at the same time, I feel, I don't want to say happy, but in a way, yeah, I'm like, yeah, well, you're learning. I mean, don't you think that it will not happen in the future? And so in a way, you are getting a preview of what's in store for you, and vice versa. Again, in full honesty, sometimes when the students at the beginning of my lectures, I always ask my students, so how things are going? And somebody would say, oh, everything is going perfectly in my team. Everybody is working hard. Everybody is very smart and dedicated and intelligent and nice to each other. I'm like, yeah, poor you. I'm kind of happy for you that you have this, but at the same time, it probably will not happen in the future. And so sort of don't you expect that it will be so nice in the future as well. So in a way, they kind of have more fun, but they skip all of the learning opportunities. Anyway.
We do have some questions here.
Yes, let's get to some questions, and I'll talk in a minute then about what needs to happen next. But I deliberately dedicated the first 15-20 minutes to sort of talk about these challenges, to put you in the right mindset. So as I said, X-Culture, for most of you, it will be a great fun experience. You will meet people from other cultures. You will make friends. We had people who even got married later on. Some of you probably will meet in person at the upcoming X-Culture Symposium in Warsaw. And then the next one next year will be in Thailand. So it will be a lot of fun. It will be pleasant. You'll meet new things. You'll learn new things. You'll do new things. You'll learn new skills. So obviously it will be a good experience. And maybe that's what I should have been talking about. But I just wanted to make sure that you also sort of do not expect sort of a tour, a trip to Disneyland. It will be hard. It will require work. And as I said, it's a team-based project. So sometimes maybe some things will not be as easy or will require more attention than you may have expected.
Yeah, it's going to be hard throughout the way, but in the end, you feel happy that you pass all this kind of situation.
Yeah, I always get some, comments from students that say something like this. In the moment, it felt hard. It felt like it was a lot of work. We even had some maybe conflicts with some of the team members. But you know what, looking back, it was a great experience. I learned a lot. And maybe some people even say that was one of the best projects I ever done in my education. So I see a question from Ashush. What happens when one doesn't submit their part or has high plagiarism? It's a very good question. Ashush, I saw you raised your hand. Can I ask you to raise your hand again? I'll add you to the panel and I will ask you, yes, I will ask you what you would do here. And then I'll tell you what our policy is. So you should be able to talk now. And let me see if I can move you to panelist. So what would you do in this situation? So imagine you're on a project and you have a bunch of people, like thousands of people from all around the world. And let's say somebody doesn't do the project. Somebody doesn't. So you have a team where one team member didn't submit their part or submitted their part, but there is a lot of plagiarism in that part. What would you do? Unmute your microphone. Tell me what your policy is.
This is quite funny because my friends, I think they're going to be like watching this, like they're in this meeting right now. This is gonna be funny.
Well,
I
we
don't,
put you in charge for 5 minutes and you get this question from someone and you need to develop a policy. What would you do?
I don't know, like we usually like we just communicate that with our module leader, and they just dismiss their credits, and we just submit the project without their parts. But like, I mean, yes, we can compensate their parts, but like, it wouldn't be the best option, not gonna lie.
All right, so we now revoke your part from being in charge of the project, and let me tell you what we do. And by the way, and what logic goes into it.
Okay.
So you remember what I said, that Xculture is not an exam, it's a project, it's an experiential exercise, right? So no, it would be an extremely bad idea to submit the report without one section and just be mad at that student who didn't do their work, and then tell your professor, I don't care, you know, I was responsible for the marketing section and I did my section, look how good it is. And the HR section or the market analysis section, that was John Smith from the United States. And so he didn't do his part. I mean, I'm not going to do his part. I don't care. So it's not my responsibility. So he should be getting a big F or 1 or whatever system you have, grading system you have in different countries. And so I should get a good grade. No, as I said, it's not what Xculture is about. So we don't care that much about your final report. I mean, we do. We want you to win. We want you to provide good results for your clients. But at the same time, it's not the main purpose. The main purpose is learning how to deal with people in teams, working in teams, people from different countries. And to that end, people with different standards with respect to copyright, to plagiarism, to work ethics, perhaps. And so we talked about it a lot. And so all of our business experience and research shows that indeed, in some, like, for example, talking about plagiarism, indeed, in some countries, it's not a big issue. In some countries, only now it's becoming something that people even pay attention to. And in others, it's a huge deal. So at my university, if you're caught plagiarizing, you probably will be kicked out from the university. It will not be just a low grade in the course. You'll probably be kicked out. And in some countries, yeah, it's not a problem. Likewise, you will hear a lot of explanations from your team members why they copy pasted their parts. They will say that, oh, the most common reason is my English is not very good, but I found something online that is exactly what I needed. And so I figured why I would embarrass myself with bad quality section when I can copy paste something that is good quality. Isn't that better for the client? Isn't that better for the team? And again, some people may be outraged by that statement, and others will say, yeah, makes perfect sense. Or we try to have a new list of companies every semester, but again, some participated in the past, and you may find some reports from other teams that share their report online. Like literally, if you Google Xculture reports, you'll probably find quite a few of them. And I think we have only 1 or 2 companies this semester that participated in the past. So I deliberately replaced them as much as possible, but you can find some. And so if it's something that maybe, you know, same client and something that your team likes, some students will say, well, why should we reinvent the bicycle, so to speak? Why should we come up with something else when we have something really good here? Let's just copy paste. And so, as I said, that's not a good idea. And so I don't care that much about plagiarism per se. I care about you as a team finding a way to resolve the problem. And so to that end, we do a couple of things. So one, you can submit your report anytime. It's a requirement in the last week, but also you can do it earlier if you want. You can submit your report to turn it in to test it for plagiarism. So you need to do it. You must do it a week before the deadline, but you can do it even earlier if you want, and you can actually do it multiple times if you want. And you as a team will see if there are any parts that are plagiarized. It will literally show you what parts have been plagiarized, where they came from, what it looks like. So you as a team, you have the means to know if there is a problem. And then once you know that there is a problem, or if you know that there is a problem, you have to figure out how to deal with that. You can either talk to the team member who plagiarized, or you can decide to reassign his work to somebody else, or you can decide to maybe do something very small but still include some sort of a section, or whatever else your team may decide. But as I said, I worry more or care more about you as a team finding a solution to still produce a full report than you personally doing a great job individually and then, saying it's not my job with the other sections. And so what I would recommend that you do as a team, one, probably the worst idea you can come up with as a team is to distribute your workload by the chapter. To say that, okay, I, Ashush, will do the market analysis, you, Bobby, will do the competition analysis, you, Vasil will do, marketing section and so on. And then we will just meet 2 days before the deadline, put everything in one report, copy, paste, and submit it as a report. Very bad idea. First of all, there will be someone for sure who will not do their part, and you will be up for a surprise that something's not done. Second, there will be probably someone who will plagiarize too much. And so again, you will be up for surprise when there is no time to redo that part of work. Third, you kind of lose the main component of teamwork or main benefit of teamwork, which is 2 heads are better than 1. So it's always a good idea, even if you decide to assign the workload by section. It's a very bad idea to wait until the end of the semester to see what the other person did. It's a good idea to check with one another regularly in hope that maybe someone on your team will have some suggestions for you for your section. Maybe you will spot some problems in somebody else's section, and as a result, you will be able to help them. So collaboration, communication definitely leads to better products. I'm not saying that you all need to write every section, but you need to keep your eye on what others are doing so that if somebody's falling behind, which again will happen, you are working in a team and there will be someone definitely who will not produce a very good quality part. You want to know about that in advance. So as I said, maybe you want to help that person, maybe you want to scold that person a little bit and sort of tell them you got to do a better job. Maybe you want to reassign it to somebody else. Maybe you want to reassign that person not to a section, but maybe to a function. Maybe if somebody is not a good writer, maybe that person should do the research and somebody else should do the actual writing. Or maybe that person should be the coordinator or, whatever that is. So, but yeah, this way you will not have the surprises at the end. And this way you will not have to be then saying that it's not my problem, somebody didn't do their part, why should I do it? So if you were my student, and I'm not sure if you happen to be my student, I would say, no, that's your problem. You are a team. I don't care that much about the final, quality of the recommendations. As long as they're good enough, you'll get full grade. But I do care that you arrive to that destination. So I care about your journey. I don't care about your destination that much. And so here, yes, you have the means to know that there is a problem way in advance. And I care that you keep your eye on the problems. You resolve them as they arrive. And so that you submit me the final report. And I'll give you a great grade, a good mark, good grade if you submit something complete as a team. But I will give you a low grade if your section is excellent, but something is missing in the report. So that's my logic. And so, as I said, it's not because I'm such a tough professor or I don't care about, your feelings or it's because that's what will happen in real business world. There will be someone business partner who will cheat. There will be a business partner who will plagiarize your work, take your idea, take your know-how and start his own company or her own company. Some team members being less than ethical, lazy, or perhaps, plagiarizing somebody else's work. It's nothing new. So the project is multinational. There are some countries where this is sort of more acceptable than in others. And so you experiencing that and learning that, hard truth is one of the benefits of this project. So plagiarism will not be tolerated. And therefore, I recommend that you guys check it in advance. And let me show you here what the plagiarism reports look like, just so that you see. So this is from my end, but you see exactly the same report. So I'll just go to a random semester. So it's from 2019. So as you see, we had a bunch of submissions here. Most of them had very low similarity, as they call it, index. So some similarity will be okay. So sometimes you want to quote someone, sometimes you want to maybe properly reference somebody's, extract. But as I go further down, as you see, we have some reports that are like 25% copy pasted. And so let me just open one of them as an example. So this is what I will see or your professor will see, but also the same thing. Read only, that's fine. But this is exactly the same thing that you will see when you submit. And so here you will see that, in this particular case, we have 23% submitted to my own university. This is strange. So I will have to see what's been copy pasted because maybe that's something that another team member submitted. So I'll need to see. So this is kind of a little strange. So like short sentences, not quite sure what to read, what to do about it. Let me see. This could be, did I open the draft? Maybe I opened their own assignment. Ah, yes, this is the draft. So yeah, sorry, my apology because it didn't. Yeah, let's look at the final reports. Yeah. But it will show you which parts have been plagiarized, if they have been plagiarized. And then, yeah, so as you see in the final report, it's a very small number of reports that are problematic. So there is one where it's half of the report, so that's a problem, but let's open something that has 30% plagiarism rate. So maybe it's not even a problem. So we will, as professors, look at them and see what's going on there. But so looking at this specific one, so 5% came from Reuters. And so here you have like a whole paragraph, but this is not a problem, not the way I see it, because it's properly cited source. I'll need to see what this Pune is, but it's a quote, and I suppose that's fine. Here is another quote from the same source. That's where I get a little bit nervous because, even though these are sort of separate quotes, but it's from the same source. So in a way, that's like a whole page from the same source. So even though the source is acknowledged, so I cannot say that they stole the section, but I don't know. I mean, I'm not entirely happy about this, but I can live with it. So let's see what else is here. So they also have 3% from some brandongale.com. So again, referenced with attribution of authorship. Not happy that it's again like a whole page or almost a page, well, half a page, but I suppose it's fine. So these are legitimate quotes with proper attribution of authorship. So I think I'm still okay with that. So YYC, that's from the website of the, airport was the client, Calgary airport. And so again, here they took it exactly from the website and referenced. So yeah, in this case, I think we can live with it. So in this case, even though it's sort of copied and pasted material, but it's with properly cited sources. So I think it's fine. And so that's what you should be doing too. So you look at those details, you see if it's really copy paste, if it's a problem, and if so, then you deal with that as a team. If it's not, then obviously it's okay. Then you keep it in the report. All right. So Rafael, can you help me please with the questions here? Because I'm so focused on answering them that I may skip some important things.
We have a question from Safi. During the practical phase, I have my exam till 15. I feel I cannot perform my best. What should I do?
Sorry, where is that question? I don't see it in there.
It's on the chat. It's
up to 25%.
No. During the practical phase, I have my exam till 15th. I feel I cannot perform my best. What should I do?
Oh, until the 15th of March.
It doesn't.
So if I understand, the question correctly, and the student, please correct me. So my semester basically doesn't start until the 15th, or I have exams and I will not be able to participate actively until that time. Not a problem in and of itself. Inform your team, introduce yourself 2 minutes. Hi, my name is whatever your name is. And so nice to meet you all, guys. I will have exams until the 15th. I will not be able to participate actively until then, but I'm fully committed. So once my exams are over, I will be able to work on the project as required. So my apology for being a little bit absent in this stage, but I will be back on track once my exams are over. You do that, the team knows it, the team counts on you, the team may assign you some work and know that you will not start working until that. So communication is important. We also have reasons or similar situations where, for example, it's a national holiday, Easter break in some countries, but others may not celebrate Easter, or maybe some sort of a national holiday in whatever country you live. So you just inform your team, I will be away for a few days with my family or observing my religious practices. So just inform them. As I said, we may have some teams where the semester, I think we don't have anyone where the semester ends earlier this semester, but sometimes we do have some teams where the semester ends a few days before the project is over. Again, just schedule as such. Again, not a huge deal. You just finish your part, whatever the team assigned you to do earlier. You tell your team, hey guys, my semester ends a week before the project is over. I will have my work ready. Here it is. If needed, I'll stay online, but otherwise I'm basically checking out. You do that, everyone will be happy. Happens all the time in the business world, especially when you have a global virtual team where everybody is in a different country, different institutions, institutional rules, different labor laws. Yeah, so you may be working even for the same company, but there will be differences of that kind. As long as you communicate, it's not a problem. Happens all the time, so it's not a problem. It would be a problem. I remember once we had a very large class from Israel, and so the end of the semester coincided with some important Israeli national holiday, and so like 3 days before the deadline, the whole Israeli group disappears, and it's like 200 people or 150 people. So meaning that it's like 150 teams, and so everybody's panicking. Where are the team members? So yes, obviously, if you inform the people in advance, your team, it shouldn't be a problem. But if you simply disappear, well, you know, holidays may be different in different countries. And so just because you know that you will have Christmas or Easter or whatever else, Independence Day, your team may not know about it. And so talk to them. And yes, again, experiencing these kinds of asynchronies, that's part of the project. So not a problem.
Okay, thank you. The next question, I think it's regarding the
Excuse me?
contribution.
Sophie raised his or her hand, so I unmuted. So Sophie, go ahead, please ask your question.
Yes, so as you have said that there are a lot of students who plagiarize their reports. So I was thinking about this. So if the companies are investing into us, we know next to nothing about business. So they are expecting something out of us. Maybe out of 100, maybe 1 or 2 ideas are worth investing in. So what do they expect out of us, and what should we do in order to satisfy their expectations?
Excellent question. And you touched upon several issues. Let me talk about them one by one. So one, you said a lot of teams plagiarize. No, not a lot of teams plagiarize. As I said, here is a real semester. So you had whatever number of teams here. So it's like 300 or so here. And as you can see, only about 10 are in the territory that looks problematic. And even those, as I showed you one, yes, it's about 30% that has been copied and pasted, but it's legitimate quotes. So it's not really a problem per se. And so somebody also is asking, so up to 25% is fine. Not necessarily. So you often open a report, it's a smaller percentage sort of in green, but you look at what they plagiarized and it could be problematic. So it could be, you know, just literally 2 pages without any attribution of authorship. Like in this case, 17% from Xculture's website. So I'm not even sure what this is. So it looks like they just copied the actual task questions. And so that added up to 25% or 17%. So it doesn't look like a big problem, but yeah. So in this case, but sometimes you literally see a small percentage, like 10%, but it's literally like full page without any references. So in that case, even though it's small, it's a problem. And sometimes you see, just like the one I showed you, that it's a larger percentage, but it's you know, quotes and properly cited sources. So perhaps that's not a big problem. Second, going to Sophie's point that we don't know anything about business. No, that's not true. Again, most of you actually know quite a lot. So we have a large group of people who are MBA students. We have a lot of people with work experience. We have a lot of people who simply are older, but also we have a lot of very smart students who actually know quite a lot. And so we have some of the best universities in the world participating in the project. So you would be surprised how often students actually have very strong good knowledge. But then most importantly, Sophie, to your question, so how can you contribute to the company? We actually did a lot of research. And so there are several contributions where you can be extremely useful. So one is serendipity. So I'm not sure if you know the word. So it's basically dumb luck. And so what I mean by that is that there are a lot of you, and in your mass, you're right, you may not know much about a specific industry or business in general. But because there are so many of you, it's inevitable that some of you, just by sheer luck, coincidence, serendipity, know something or someone, or maybe saw something or read something that is relevant to this particular challenge. So as one of the clients once said, and that stuck with me, he said something like this. He said, working with Xculture is like sending millions of ants in all directions to look for food. If somebody dropped a candy somewhere, one of them will accidentally stumble upon it and bring it to me or tell me about that opportunity. So the next time, maybe that student will not stumble upon that candy. But this time somebody did, because you are all around the world. And some, just as I said, maybe you know someone in the government who happens to be knowledgeable about that industry and whose word may help that company break into that market. Maybe you read a book that specifically talked about this very specific incidents, and you're like, oh yeah, they can use that idea. Maybe there is a company in your market, or that that happens to use an interesting marketing trick that applies to your client. As I said, maybe you accidentally come up with an idea. Maybe for the next 10 years you will never have such a brilliant idea, but here just some interesting slogan pops up in your head or something else. And so those are those serendipitous, interesting things that all of a sudden become very valuable to the company. And as you correctly said, most of the reports will not be really that useful. So when you look at the reports, I would say 9 out of 10 may not contain particular depth or insight, but 1 in 10 or so will actually contain a brilliant idea that often leads to the company, having a major breakthrough and doing much better economically after after your advice. Next one is your local knowledge. So here it's not so much about your knowledge of business, but it's about your knowledge of your culture or whatever other cultures and markets you have visited. So we had companies that changed their names. We had companies that changed the color of their packaging because they never thought about that. But turns out, for example, yellow color means death in some countries, or even number of units in the packaging is not good luck in some countries, or I don't know, 4 is a bad number of units in, for example, China or Japan, and the company didn't know that and was wondering why nobody's buying the product. Or, for example, the name just doesn't sound right, or sounds funny, or maybe even means something bad. So we had, for example, this company called now called Unicheck, a plagiarism detection company out of Ukraine. But originally they were called Unplag. And so they thought it's a nice name because, plagiarism, plag, unplag. So you kind of unplagiarize. But then many students told, no, it doesn't sound, cool. And so one team came up with the name, and so they adopted a new name. So they literally went through the rebranding. And so here it's not really that you are smart. It's just because, to you, it's obvious. You know right away that it doesn't sound right in your language. You know right away that, that's something clients will not want, or you know right away that this symbol means something bad. They don't. Most of our companies, we worked with a lot of large companies like Mercedes-Benz, Louis Vuitton, but we deliberately now select medium-sized companies and even small companies because they need your help more. So there is really not much we can tell Mercedes-Benz that they didn't know before, even though many of our students still did found, interesting insights. But for smaller companies, they don't have the resources to go around the world and do the research, but you can. Next one is also volume. So most of the reports or most of the challenges will ask you to conduct your own research, maybe interview 1 or 2 potential clients, maybe interview 1 or 2 potential distributors, retailers. So for example, like the Turnitin company that I just mentioned. So they work with universities and with schools. And so they wanted to know how students decide if they want to use a service to check their work for plagiarism, how professors detect plagiarism in their classes, who buys at the university anti-plagiarism software, who makes the decisions, whom they use now, how they made the decision, would they be willing to switch to a different provider? And so they asked each student to interview maybe 1 professor, 1 friend, and maybe 1, I don't know, administrator at the school. Very small contribution, very easy to do for each student. You just ask a few friends and say, hey, do you use anything for plagiarism detection? Most say, I don't. Did you know that you can maybe for $5 per month buy a subscription to Turnitin and then to check any of your papers before you submit them to your professor so that you're not caught plagiarizing? They're like, oh, I didn't realize that. So, but in any case, each one does it individually. It's a small bit of information, a few minutes of your time, not very useful as an individual report. But there are hundreds of teams and sometimes even thousands of students doing that. Once you put it all together, it's like world-class global survey of potential customers, of potential distributors, of potential competitors, whatever the company asks you to do. So individually, yes, that's a very small contribution. But collectively, I mean, if you wanted to contract a company to do survey in 70 countries, with thousands of people interviewed together, it will probably take you years and hundreds of thousands of dollars. Here, you each make a little contribution and the client puts it all together. Wow, this is very useful. This is very interesting. So those are sort of the contributions that you make as a team. And then obviously, again, often students are quite smart. And so often students do very insightful analysis. They come up with new strategies. They find problems with the customer's website or pricing policy, or maybe distribution channel, and they say, this is not right. You should be doing it a different way. And so every semester we have companies that say, wow, this is so cool. Can you give me the names of people who came up with this idea? Maybe they want to work for me, or maybe they want to have an internship with me, or maybe they want to be my representative in that market. So we have people, for example, who not only conduct data collection, but even find potential distributors. They would say, interview local stores or distribution companies and ask, would you like to work with this client? And they say, sure, let's take a look. And so before you know it, you have a contract, and then the client says, hey, you've been so effective at, finding the distributors for me or clients. Would you like maybe to be my permanent representative in that market? And so sometimes we have even those outcomes. So yes, Sophie, sometimes it's, as I said, not everyone is a business genius. And yes, many reports will be making only incremental contributions, but all in all, clients actually get a lot out of this whole cohort. And sometimes even from individual students, their reports are, extremely insightful. And that's why, by the way, we have clients coming again and again to us. Rafael kicks in because I talk too much and he wants to hint that, time to wrap up.
No.
Go ahead.
I actually just want to add, I think that Safi is a little bit concerned because he's probably from academy side, right? Right, Safi? So you may think that you don't know much about business, but what I can say is that we had from previous semester academy students who actually won the semester. So I know you guys are capable to do a pretty good job, as same as MBA and university students. So don't be that concerned about it. I know you can do a very, very good work.
Especially for some clients. So we always have some clients who actually work specifically for younger audiences. So we've had clients that make toys. We've had clients that develop products specifically for the education markets. And so in a way, you are potential clients. And as such, the way you see it, your thinking is actually very valuable to them. And often sort of the best ideas come from the younger populations that know the market the best. Anyway, let me briefly talk about what needs to happen in the next couple of days. So one, a readiness test. If you haven't done it yet, please do it as soon as you can. On Monday, we will start forming teams. And usually it takes about half a day to create teams. So we are trying to maximize national diversity within the team. So we're trying to have as many countries per team as possible, while also matching you more or less by age and work experience. So most of the time it will be like, let's say if you are 19, most of your team members will be sort of 19 plus or minus 1 year. If you have older, a lot of experience, your probably team members will be of similar age and experience. The reason for that is that, well, one sort of ethical, like we don't want to have sort of adults with kids, but also we notice that for some reason, when we mix, for example, MBA students and undergraduate students, conflicts happen. So the MBAs say that I don't want to babysit those undergraduates, and undergraduates say those MBAs are so bossy, they never listen to us. The truth is that it's not true. So we look at the data and we know that there is not much difference in dedication, in quality of the work, in depth of the analysis. In fact, if anything, MBAs often don't do such a good job because they tend to be busier. They tend to have families. Many of them have jobs, especially executive MBAs. And so they actually tend to dedicate less time. And so while they may have more experience, often they sort of have less sort of commitment in a way, but in any case, we don't want those. And so people need to blame, problems on something. So they say, oh, they're too young or too old, or think too much of themselves. So we try to match you more or less by your age and experience and the study level, but at the same time, try to maximize your diversity. And so it takes quite a lot of time to form teams out of 4,000 people or so. So it will be my afternoon by the time it's done. And so I'm in the New York time zone. So for most of you, especially those in Europe and Asia, it will be sort of towards the end of the day. So if you don't receive your team assignment by morning of Monday, don't panic, don't sort of send us angry emails or concerned emails. You will get your assignment by the end of the day. Then once you receive that email, reach out to your team, introduce yourself, tell who you are, and yeah, start communicating. You don't really need to do much for the first couple of weeks other than get to know each other and select the client. Let me go here to the schedule. So all you need to do the first week is just make sure that all the team members are communicating. Meet your team members, nothing else. By the end of the second week, you need to look at the basically what needs to be done and just come up with some general ideas of what needs to be done. And then you select your client organization, and then you work as a team. So it's okay to take a little time to warm up, so to speak. But then once you select your client organization, you have to be working on schedule. So we ask you to submit each week a progress report. It's a short survey where we basically ask you to give us a copy of what your team has completed so far. So we don't expect you to have a final section, just something. And so again, in full disclosure, it has two reasons. The sort of stated reason is that we want to see how much progress you made. So we share those with the professors, and your professors want to know if you're making good progress. If not, they may provide help or maybe see, where you're stuck. But the real reason, and again, maybe I should not record that, but the real reason is not so much that we need to see what you've done, but we want to give you some deadlines so that you don't wait until the last day to do your work. For the first maybe 3-4 years, there was only the final submission, only the final report that was due at the end. And so what happened a lot was that the students would not do much throughout the project, but then try to do something in the last 2-3 days. And that obviously didn't work very well for the project, but also for the team. And so now you have those deadlines each week where we ask you to put at least something together. And so that prompts you to think about, okay, well, what we're going to submit this week. So even if it's only like one page of just some notes, that's still good because it prompts you to think about it, prompts you to do, proactively do something. And so we noticed that provided much better quality of work. Teams work more proactively, and the work is done much better. I'm in a webinar here, so my daughter here. So my daughter is here. I have about 100 people from 70 countries. So I'm going to stop the webinar and talk to my daughter because it's important. Go away. I'm talking about important things here. My apology, but again, this is also the reality of life that I wanted to show here. So, but yeah, and then you just go with the weekly surveys, progress surveys. Again, to me, if you're my student, I do not worry for what you tell me in the weekly survey, but I do worry that I do care that you complete it. So if you complete the weekly survey, it tells me that you are working, that you care, that you are doing something. Even if you tell me that nobody on my team is listening to me, or you're telling we are severely behind the schedule, or you're telling me in that weekly survey that somebody is very, very, unpleasant. I will pay attention to those things. I will try to do something about it. If you're my student, I will, maybe assign a coach to the case so that they can investigate. So, but even if everything is not going as you expect, I'm still happy because I know you're going through this journey. So you still get full credit. Vice versa, even if the team is doing very well, I see from other team members that you're writing excellent report, everything's fine, but you personally are not participating, either by the virtue you didn't complete the progress report, and I'm not sure if you lost interest, if you dropped out, if you are just don't care, or maybe you're sick, or maybe you're lost, or if your team tells me that you are not participating. So they're making a good progress, but they're giving you low peer evaluations. That's where I get very concerned. And that's where I'm like, okay, well, why my student is not performing? Should I give him or her lower grade? So that's where I become sort of not happy with you. So therefore, yes, if you finish this project with enemies on 5 continents, but you still complete the project, you'll get a good grade. I'll still be happy. I mean, not very happy because I wish everything was, finished with friends on 5 continents. But as I said, it's a journey. And vice versa, if your team does an outstanding job, but tell me that you personally didn't participate. So that's where I will take action as a professor and will give you probably a low grade. All right, so Rafael, we are almost out of time. Were there any other questions that we didn't answer?
No, I think everything was answered. I just want to have a word for Academy students. That's fine.
Yes, please, please. And by
Okay.
the way, Academy, those who don't realize, so we have sort of 3 tracks. The big one, the main one is the university track. So most of you are university students. Some of you are my own students at different universities. We have close to 200 professors participating in the project this semester. So 150 universities, and some have multiple professors. So, but then we also have pre-college teenagers. They are in a separate track. They will be in teams with other pre-college teenagers. And so we call them X-Culture Academy. And we also have a track for professionals. So people who really wanted to do X-Culture, sometimes older people, but who are not students at a participating university. And so they can be placed on teams with other professionals. And so Rafael is managing those 2 groups.
Thank you, Vas. So for X-Culture Academy, for those who complete the exams, pass the exams, and also pay the fee, we are forming you with teams by next week, okay? But if you didn't pass all the exams and didn't pay the fee yet, it's fine. We will accept the new submission of the retaking to retake all the tests that you missed or failed by this Sunday. Okay, so you can pay us the fee by Monday, and that way we can add you to one team as soon as possible. Okay, so I think, do you guys have any questions regarding that? Is everything clear?
And yes, Sophia is asking about stipend requests. So I assume Sophia is from your track, Rafael. So I guess, you'll take a look at it.
I already answered Sophia.
Yeah, there is also a question about a symposium. So twice a year, we bring the best students for a face-to-face meeting. We just had one in Panama City in Florida in the United States. We will have the next one in Poland in July. You will be invited shortly. So we need to see at least a couple of weeks of your performance, because it's only for the best students. So we invite usually so it's 150 students total who actually attend the event. And then we invite a little bit more, obviously, because not everyone whom we invite can attend. So, but we want to see your performance first. You will receive your invitations soon. And I truly hope that we will see some of you in Lublin. So there will be students from, as I said, we usually aim at about 150. And so they usually come from about 40 different countries. And usually summer is the big one, goes on for the whole week. We meet a lot of companies, city mayors, local entrepreneurs, politicians, community leaders, lots of sightseeing and things like that. So we have them usually outside the United States. So we had one in Canada, in Italy, in Poland, next one. And then in the fall, we have one in usually in the United States. So that call that I just got, I think that's from the coaching program. They have a seminar, a webinar in 30 seconds. So we're going to stop here. But if you have any questions, admin@xculture.org will respond right away. Okay. Thank you so much. So let's stop here.
Thank you, Vas.
Mhm.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.